what in the world is going on right now? No one really knows. No one has an answer except for God only. God knows what's going on, but one of the things that we do know, we can see that there's a lot of destruction going on because we see the evidences. Cities being burned, statues being torn down. Is there anything else going on? Maybe. Jesus says this in the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 7. Do not be amazed that I said to you, you must be born again. Jesus makes it clear that we all need a spiritual rebirth, a second birth that's from above. And then Jesus goes on and says this in verse 8. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but do not know where it comes from and where it is going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. Jesus says the Holy Spirit is like the wind. Now, no one knows where the wind comes from, where the wind is going to. The only thing we know from the wind is that we see evidences of it. When a hurricane passes through, we see evidences of destruction. So Jesus is saying when a person is born again, there's going to be evidences there that the Holy Spirit has blown through his heart, blown through his life, and something different has taken place. Maybe, and no one knows this, maybe God is doing a great movement among people in the world right now. Maybe his Spirit is blowing through places and people's lives that none of us can see. We don't have a clue. But we will see evidences of that. Now, if that's the case, what do I do? What do you do? Here's the first thing. You keep growing in your faith. You let the Holy Spirit blow through your heart, transform you. You become a biblical informed light of God. You ask God to use you. Just like he uses the wind to blow around, he might use you in places and people that you never thought could happen. And maybe right now, God has been doing that. We've seen all the bad things happen, but maybe there's a lot of good things happen as God's Holy Spirit is blowing throughout the world. Because the Holy Spirit is under God's control, no one else's. So allow yourself to be under God's control. Be a Christ-honoring Christian. Be God's ambassador to be used by him. Here's a second thing that you can do. You can pray. Pray for revival. Pray for that God would pour out his Spirit and cause a time of refreshment for many people. You know, revival is not something that we get a tent and we get a bunch of people together and get an outside speaker come in and call that revival. Revival is when God pours out his Spirit and revives people. Revival starts with his church, his people, that he touches our hearts. He ignites within us a passion for Christ. And then he uses us to be his instruments. And through that, God's Spirit blows through his church, and it blows where only God knows it'll go. But people's hear the message, the good news of Jesus Christ, are born again, and then their lives are changed. So pray God might be merciful. Because when God pours out his Spirit and causes revival, that is his mercy. So pray for revival.